8:30 I get the call. Sorry love, unexploded German bomb on a building site in Soho. Going to miss dinner. We'll make it up to you. Don't wait up. Boom. I say get the call. I just let it go to voicemail. I keep them all. You have 27 saved messages, each one much the same. Sometimes about golf. Dangers of being an army wife, especially the engineers. Could be posted anywhere, needed anywhere, anytime. Army wife. People didn't put us together, a midwife and a soldier. One brings life into the world, the other takes it away. That's not how he'd say it. I'm an ATO, he'd say. I defuse bombs. He does, to be fair. Ammunition technical officer. Looks like that chap from the Hurt Locker. Or the Michelin Man. I think about him crossing the city. Army base in Catford to future Soho luxury living. So 45 minutes? Either round the South Circular, then through Brixton, or straight up, the old Kent Road. Grandma Sarah taught me the ways around the city. Get me out of the house so I didn't have to see Mum and Dad. Down to the bakery on the corner, when it was still there. She'd get me a pineapple upside down cake and warn me not to tell anyone, but she'd be smiling. And he was an actual baker when we had people who made things. Morning, Mr. Jones, how are you today? She'd say. Very well, Mrs. Very well. What can I get ya? He'd say. Loaf of bread, 6 eggs, pint of milk, please. You got your tokens? I pass them over and he gives me a little wink, which means he's slipped an extra egg in there. I'm 18. Here's at least twice that. I take the brown paper bag and carry it down Frith Street. I want to sit in the square, but it's used for veg now. Iron railings melted down to make tanks. Wouldn't know there was a shelter underneath. Take a left down Bateman Street, cross Dean Street and nip into Murd Street. I look in the back, tucked into the wall so Mom can see me from the window. Not an egg, but some licorice wheels. Where'd he get this? It's bitter and delicious. I look up and there's a soldier with golf clubs. Handsome he was. All smart, posh and blustery, you know. Terrible sorry to have these clean forgot and had to come straight from the course. I'm just here because a friend brought me. You know how it is. So what do you do? I just laughed and asked if he'd said that to all the girls that night. All this feigning disinterest. He looked at me straight in the eye and said, just you. I told him what I did. He said, maybe one day you'd like to be my full wife. Smiled again. I liked him because he said what came into his mind. Then the bell rang and he got up. Forgot his clubs and came back for them. The power of that bell. Temporary authority, deciding who moves and when. But you have to go along with it, or the whole thing falls apart. When we heard it, we were supposed to hide under the dining room table. No garden, so no shelter of our own. Under there, you're having a laugh, ain't ya? But what else can you do? You had to go along with it. Don't you know there's a war on? Little boys played games, guessing the different planes. The different types of bomb they'd drop. You hear them whistle as they fall. I can't tell them apart. What's the difference? The difference is that with a terrorist bomb, you don't know how it's put together. That's when you get to use a robot. The bombs from the tube attack on 21st July 2005 were made of hair dye and chapati flour. These ones, Second World War vintage. Of course we know them. But whatever they are, they're designed to explode. It came in through the roof of our Soho house, crashed through every floor, into the cellar. I saw it. The bulbous nose, the long tail. I waited for it to explode. Waited to die. Then there was this sickly silence, when everything seems to stand still. And then he just exploded. I joined the army to serve my country, to die if necessary. And I think what the British people want is to live in a country which is worth dying for again. I dared to raise the subject. He said what he thought, but in the end I didn't like what he had to say. This country needs a future, he said, like this family. We don't have a family, I said. Just us. Exactly. My wife, Baron. That hit me like shrapnel. We'll get the test, I said. The warden found me with a sodden brown paper bag and a licorice wheel in my hand. The soldier with the golf clubs put his arm around me. Later, he would ask me to marry him. I picked up a piece of red brick. She would never. He didn't finish that sentence. Turns out he met her on the golf course. No use of crying over spilled milk, he said. Trouble is, you don't know if it's a dud or if the spring has not been released, the detonator not struck. But once you determine the explosives are still active, it's a simple choice. Cut the wire or detonate. They wanted to take it out of Soho, to the marshes, but something went wrong. Someone stumbled on the rubble of a Soho building site, which would later become some luxury flats. Boom! Oh, my ATO was okay. It's not that got me. It's what's underneath that did. What was revealed in that crater. Turns out, what they thought was just a Victorian house had foundations from 200 years earlier. And these foundations were built on the top of a house William the Conqueror might have seen. And that made up of red bricks pillaged from the Roman city wall, ancient homes blasted open to make way for new. For 2,000 years, families have walked down this road, stood in the same spot, smiled at the thought of home. Grandma Sarah showed me around the city, knew the streets, the alleys. It was exciting. The whole place mapped out in her mind, imprinted onto mine. I barely gave that soldier a second thought. Instead, I thought about the Luftwaffe pilot, tracing his way, the Channel, Dover, Kent, then spaffing his man-made, man-designed load all over the city. So after the war, I bought a car, filled it with petrol, and didn't come back for 20 years. No map, no route. Child out of wedlock. Can you imagine? Not sure about how she turned out. But her daughter, she takes after me. So I get her pineapple upside down cake. Once I said, it'll take it out of us having a baby. He said, I'm going to put a lot more into that baby than that baby is going to take out of me. Into me, I thought. He had our lives mapped out for us, thought he could pitch everything to me in a soundbite. I wanted to blow them apart. He talked about it like it was my duty. Spirit of the Blitz, Churchill, bombs, debris, collateral damage. Keep calm and shut the fuck up. She actually said that to me. Grandma Sarah. Never heard her say that word before or since. War becomes nostalgia. She said that too. I stood looking at the crater made by that bomb falling through the roof of my house, blasted open. Desolate, barren. Little did he know it's him who was shooting blanks all along. His fault he didn't show up for the test results. Still trusts my medical expertise. Perks of profession. If he can lie to me about her, I'm allowed for this one little thing. Salvo after salvo into her for nothing. He might get one in the hole, but he'll never get a hole in one. I think about her leaving the city. She went around solo. No Google Maps, no city mapper, no jumping in an Uber. Rules predetermined, decided for you. Look up, she'd say. You never know what's about to fall from the sky. I looked up, following the point of Grandma Sarah's cane. When I looked down, she had a piece of red brick in her palm. That's been around 2,000 years, she said. Take it. She guided me like a missile. Boom, it's all blown apart.